What is Bitcoin and how it was created? Today, let's talk about Bitcoin and answer one of the most searched questions on Google: what is Bitcoin? If you're worried that we're going to get too high-tech and use a lot of complex words, don't. Here at Big Yard Tech, we translate what is Bitcoin into a simple term. So even if you have no technology background, you'll be able to understand everything by the end of this video. So let's begin. Before we talk about Bitcoin, let's speak about money for a minute. What is money exactly? Money represents value. If I do some work for you, you give me money in exchange for the value I gave you. I can then use that money to get something of value from someone else in the future. Value has taken numerous forms throughout history, and people used a lot of different materials to represent money. Salt, wheat, shells, and gold, to name a few, has been used as a medium of trade in the past. However, for something to represent value, people have to trust that it is indeed valuable, and will continue to be valued long enough for them to redeem it in the future. Up until some time ago, we always trusted in something to represent money. However, something happened along the way and our trust has shifted from trusting something to trusting in someone. Allow me to explain. Over the years, people found it too difficult to walk around the world carrying gold bars or other forms of money, so paper money was created. A bank or government would offer to take control of your bar of gold. Let's imagine the gold worth $100, and in return, that bank gives you $100, receipt certificates which we call bills. Not only were these sheets of paper easier to carry, but you could get a cup of coffee for $1 and you won't have to cut your gold bar into 100 pieces. And if you want your gold back, all you had to do was return $100 to the bank to exchange them for real money. As a result, the paper began to be used as money, as a practical and convenient tool. Now, to illustrate how we got away from the gold standard in the first place, is a complicated topic. But suffice it to say, the governments persuaded their citizens that the government would be liable for the value of the paper money. Let's simply forget about gold and trade paper instead. As a result, people continued to trade with receipts guaranteed only by the government's promise. And why did it keep working after that? Because of trust, to be precise. Despite the lack of a physical commodity to back paper money, people trusted the government, and thus fiat money was born. Fiat is a Latin term that translates to by law. This means that the dollar, euro, or any other money for that matter, has value because the government mandates it. This is what is referred to as legal tender coins or banknotes that must be accepted as payment if provided. As a result, today's money is worthless. The number is derived from a legal status granted by a central authority, in this instance the government. As a result, the trust model has shifted from trusting something to trusting someone, in this case the government. There are two major disadvantages to fiat money. First, it's centralized, it is controlled and issued by a central authority, the government or central bank in this scenario. Second, it is not constrained by quantity, the government or central bank has unlimited printing power whenever needed and increases the money supply on the market. The issue with printing more money is that it floods the market with more money at once, the value of each dollar decreases, making your own money less valuable. When you see prices increase over time, it doesn't mean they're rising as much as they used to. It also doesn't mean your money's purchasing power is decreasing. To buy something that used to cost less, you'll need more money. Once fiat money was established, the transition to digital money was quite simple. Why not make money primarily digital? And give that authority the responsibility of keeping track of who owns what. credit cards, wire transfers, and PayPal are the most common methods of payment nowadays, as well as other types of digital money. The amount of tangible money on the planet is insignificant and shrinking with each passing year. So, how does that work if money is now digital? What's to stop me from copying a file that represents $1 a million times if I have it and having $1 million? The double spend problem is what it's called. Today's banking solution is centrally controlled. They keep a logbook on their computer that keeps track of who owns what. Everyone has a username and password, and each account's total is kept in this logbook. Because we all trust the bank, and the bank trusts its computer, the solution is centered on this record in this computer. You may not be aware, but there have been numerous attempts to develop other kinds of digital currencies, but none have been effective in overcoming the double spend problem without the use of a central authority. When you give someone control of the money supply, you're giving them great power, which leads to 3 significant problems. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts utterly. When banks have a responsibility to create money or value, they effectively control the flow of value across the world, giving them nearly unlimited authority. A simple illustration of how power corrupts: the Wells Fargo scandal, in which workers secretly opened millions of unlawful bank and credit card accounts, was shown to increase the bank's revenue stream, without the bank's customers knowing for years. Until 2009, this was the situation. It appeared that coming up with a viable alternative to the current monetary system was a hopeless task. But suddenly it all changed. Satoshi Nakamoto, someone who goes by the moniker Satoshi, uploaded a document online in October 2008. The article, commonly known as a white paper, suggested a method for developing a system for decentralized money known as Bitcoin. This technology promised to be able to create digital money that might solve the problem of double spending without the need for centralized power. Because most money is now digital, the bank runs its record of balances and transactions. The bank's logbook, on the other hand, is not open to the public. It is stored on the bank's main computer. You can't look at the bank's logbook, and it's totally in the bank's control. Bitcoin is, at its foundation, a decentralized log with no central authority, but what does this confusing statement even mean? So, let's make a comparison between Bitcoin and a bank. On the other hand, Bitcoin is a record of transactions. At any time, I can look into the record and see all of the transactions and balances that are currently happening. The only thing you can't find out is who owns these accounts and who is responsible for each transaction. Bitcoin is pseudo-anonymous. Everything is open, transparent, and traceable. But it's still unknown who's sending what to whom. Let's have a look at an example. Certain rows from Bitcoin's record are visible on your screen. We can observe that in May of 2010, a particular Bitcoin address transmitted 10,000 Bitcoins to another Bitcoin address. This transaction is the first Bitcoin purchase ever made, and it was used by a man called Laszlo to purchase 2 pizzas. Laszlo posted a message in 2010 asking for someone to sell him 2 pizzas for 10,000 Bitcoins. Someone did, and the price of these 2 pizzas is now worth well over $100 million. Bitcoin is also decentralized. The ledger is not held by a single machine. Every machine that accepts Bitcoin becomes a Bitcoin miner. Every computer that participates in the system, commonly known as Bitcoin, keeps a record of transactions, also known as the blockchain. If you want to take down the system or hack the ledger, you'll have to shut down hundreds of machines that are continually updating a copy. Bitcoin, like most money today, is a digital currency. This means that there is nothing physical in Bitcoin that you can touch. There are no actual coins, merely rows of transactions and balances. When you own Bitcoin, you own the right to access a specific Bitcoin address record in the ledger and move funds from that address to another address. So, what does it all mean? For the first time since the invention of digital money, we finally have a realistic alternative to the current system. Bitcoin is a sort of money that is uncontrollable by any government or bank. Consider how centralized the flow of information was before the internet. You could get it from a few major players like the New York Times, who published an article, as well as others. Information is now decentralized owing to the internet, and you may communicate and consume knowledge from all over the world with the press of a button. The Internet of Money is Bitcoin, and it's giving a decentralized money solution. Compared to the present system, Bitcoin provides several advantages. For starters, it gives you entire financial control. With Bitcoin, you have complete control over your funds. Bitcoin also eliminates a lot of the middlemen in the money transfer process. As a result, in many circumstances, using Bitcoin is less expensive than using traditional wire transfers or money orders. In addition, unlike fiat currencies, Bitcoin was created to be digital. This means you can put other software layers on top of it, and convert it to the smart money. Finally, Bitcoin allows 2.5 billion individuals all over the world to engage in digital trade who are unable to use the current financial system. These individuals are either unbanked or underbanked, because of where they are living and the reality into which they were born. Today, they can start trading with Bitcoin with just a cell phone and a click of a button with no need for permission. Several stores, both online and offline, now accept Bitcoin. If you choose, you can use Bitcoin to book a flight or a hotel. Bitcoin debit cards are also available. That allows you to use your Bitcoin balance to pay for nearly anything. However, the road to popular acceptability is long and winding. It's still a long one. And we're seeing it change money as we know it these days. You might still have some concerns. If you have any, please share them in the comments area below. And don't forget to hit the like button, then make sure to subscribe to receive notifications when new videos are released. Thanks for joining me here at the Big Yard Tech. And I'll see you in a minute.